Hello everyone, myself Sabri and I welcome you to our channel Solution Bridge Network and one-stop solution for all your Power Platform tutorials. Today we are exploring a fundamental building block of Power Apps, the variables. So what is a variable? Imagine a container that can hold information you want to use later in your app. That's precisely what a variable is. It allows you to store data like text, number, collections, booleans, and reference it throughout your app using a designated name. This eliminates the need to repeat values or perform complex calculations repeatedly, making your app more efficient and easier to manage. Now it's time for us to understand what type of variables we have in Power Apps. We'll encounter two main types of variables. The first one is global and the second one is context variable. Now let's see what a global variable and a context variable is. If you consider the scope, global variable is accessible throughout the entire app across all screens and function, wherein context variable is specific to a single screen or a function. If you consider the use case, you can store the data that needs to be shared consistently. Example, user preferences, app-wide settings. And with respect to context variable, it can be used for storing temporary data related informations only. So example, an user input for a form or a calculations within the formula. So modifications, this can be modified from any screens or functions. And since the context variable is specific to one screen, it needs to be modified in the same screen where it is defined. So the lifetime of the global variable persists throughout the app session unless it is explicitly resets. The lifetime of a context variable exists only while the user is on the specific screen or a function and is reset when the user navigates away. Considering the performance, global variable slightly lower performance due to constant accessibility throughout the app, where context variable gives a higher performance as they are located and managed within a specific context. Now let's jump to my computer screen where we will see a live example of using both global and local variables. I have already opened a blank canvas app where I have added two screens with a header which says variable screen 1 in the screen 1 and my second screen header says variable screen 2. I have already connected to a data source called SharePoint inventory, which is a SharePoint site list. We have already seen some theoretical explanation of the variables. Here, before I start my video, I'd like to show the syntax which we need to use to create both the local and global variables. So syntax for global variable would be set, open bracket, variable name, comma, the value which we need to be assigned to the variable and close the bracket. Similarly, syntax for a context variable would be update context of open bracket, and again we need to open a curly bracket where we need to give the name of the variable, colon, value what needs to be assigned. Close the curly bracket and close the bracket. Here we have an additional privilege that we can update the context of multiple variables in the one definition. Let's get to the practical session. So what I'm planning to do is we will have few variables defined at the onStart property of the app. So this onStart property of the app get triggered when someone is opening the application. To go there, you can find an app section which is directly above the screen one. Select it, and in the properties pane, you will have different set of property where you can go with on start. Here, I'm planning to define few global variables initially. So I'm using the syntax as set, open bracket, and the name of the variable that I'm going to define. Currently, I'm planning to define a background color for my application. So I say BG color. I just paste the RGBA code which I have in hand for my background color. So I'll come there, paste my RGBA code and close the bracket. As I said earlier, in context variable, we have the privilege to update multiple values, but if you need to define a multiple global variables, then you need to define it individually. So now you can click semicolon and then again type set and define your next variable. I'm defining my next variable as header background color. So I'll just say HDR BG color. And again, I'll go to my notepad where I have just saved my header color. I'll copy the RGBA, come here and paste it and close the bracket. I would like to define one more global variable which records the name of the user who logged in. So I say set, open bracket, username and comma. Here, To attain the logged in username, we have a function in Power App which just gives the information of the logged in user. So the function is user open bracket close bracket, and if you just click on dot, you will have the privilege to get the email ID, full name, image, and the Entra object ID. Entra object ID is nothing but the unique identifier given to a user in Azure Active Directory. So now I would like to record the full name of the user. So I say user function dot full name and close the bracket. We have already defined three global variables in the application. Now, if you select, you will see a blank data. When if you select the username, you'll get the value as blank. The reason being, we have defined this on the on start property of this app, and the value get assigned whenever the app is getting started from first. So we need to trigger the start property. So probably you can go to the app, click on the three dot, and you can say run on start. And once you click it, you will have the values assigned to your variables immediately. So check that. You can just double click on the username and you can find my name. Since I be the logged in user, my name get recorded. So similarly, if you select the header color, you will be able to get the color of the RGBA what we have defined. So let's come to the screen, and I would like to set my background color first. So I'll go to the fill function of the screen and I'll just call the name of the variable what we have defined. So it is BG color. On click, you can see that the background color is getting changed immediately. Similarly, select the header, go to the fill property and call the variable what you have defined there, which is HDR BG color. So I just type HDR, I got that and I selected. You can see obviously the color is getting updated. Similarly, we go to the screen too and have this value updated. So I'll call BG color and go to the header where you can just go to the fill property, change it to header background color. Great. So now let's say on any situation, you need to change your color and the background color of the application. It is not that you need to go to the individual screen to have it changed. You can just go to the app on start property and have the color changed. So probably whenever the user opens this app for the next time, the new color would get updated. So to reduce the complexity of updating these simple things on each and every screen, global variable comes in picture. So I'd like to change the color and see what happens. So I just copy one new RGBA what I have and I just go to the apps on start property and I'd like to change in the header color section. So let me replace and I'll just trigger the on start property. You can see the header color is changed, and if you just even go to the screen too, you'll find that the header color is automatically changed. We have defined the username function. So what I'll do, I'll insert a text in my screen one, which is a text label, and I like to add the username here. So what I'll say, I say oh, welcome, comma, get use an ampersand symbol, and I'll say username, name of the variable. So if you see, since this is a complete text, I'm just putting inside the code. And since I need to reference something, I use an ampersand symbol and I just reference the name of the variable. So it says welcome Sabarikarthi. So what I'll do, I'll just place it in this section and change the color to white. If you feel that your name should come down, so probably you can add one more point here, which is char open bracket 10 and close bracket and an ampersand. So which obviously add a line, which just brings the next statement to the next line. And you can obviously use the alignment to make it look good. Now we will add a gallery and a form to our screen one to connect it to the data source. And we will see a real life example where we can use a context variable in action. Go to insert a vertical gallery, position it accordingly, and you can go to the data source section and have your source connected. And I would like to add a border, so I just increase the border value to 1. And now it's time for us to add a form. So let's go with an edit form. Similarly, adjust its position and map the data source. As a best practice, we will rename the form and gallery so it will be easy whenever we are referencing it out in the application. So I'd like to call the gallery as view gallery and the form as main form. So now whenever my form is in view mode or edit mode, I would like to reference the item which is selected in the gallery. So let me select the form, go to the item property and just say it as view gallery dot selected. If you are new and would like to understand gallery and form control in detail, I would obviously recommend you to watch our previous videos, and you can find those video link in the description below. Now I'd like to add a container where I can just hold few icons here, which is used to save data, edit data, and delete the data. So let me go to insert, and you can type container. So I would like to go with an horizontal container since these are icons, and horizontal container help us to arrange it automatically. So take it, place it in the proper position, and resize it accordingly. And if you select the container, you'll have the justification alignment, and I like to go with the in justification. So this will be arranged in an order. And I would like to add one button which will help us to add the new records to our source via this form. So let me add a button here and call it as add stocks. Let's come to the use case of context variable. So whenever I click this add stocks button, the form which I have added, the main form, should go to the mode of new, and we should have the privilege to add the new records. Here I would like to define three context variable which defines the mode of the form. Either it is a new form, view form, or an edit form. So I'll click the add stocks, and on the on select property, I use the syntax of context variable, which is update context, and open the bracket, open a curly bracket. Now it's time for us to define the name of the variable. So I say new form, and since my new form should be opened when I click this button, I add a semicolon and say true. I add a comma. As I said already, we have the privilege to update the context of multiple variables here. So I'll say edit form as the next variable, colon, say the value as false. Similarly, we have one more variable which is view form, semicolon, false. Let me close the curly bracket and then close the bracket what we have opened. So here what we have done is we have defined three context variable, which is new form, edit form, and view form, and we have set the value of the new form to true and value of edit form and view form to false. So with this context variable, we will be defining the form mode of the main form. So let's go to the form, select the form, go to the form mode here in the default mode section. You can see obviously it is edit. So here we will use a small if condition to set the form mode. Let's say if it is new form is true, then we will say as form mode dot new, comma, and if the new form is false, we will have one more if condition to check if it is an edit form, and if edit form is true, then it is form mode dot edit, and if both are false, then it should be form mode dot view. So form mode dot view. Let's come down, select view, and close the two brackets. Now we need to define each action for this buttons. So whenever someone clicks on the save, it just save the form. So we can say submit form of main form. Once the form is submitted, we need to make sure that the property of the form is setting it to view. So we will use update content and open the bracket and open the curly bracket, and we will say set the view form as true and remaining both edit form as false and new form as false. So selecting both and setting it as false and closing the curly bracket and closing the bracket. So if someone clicks on the save button, this saves the information available in this record, and again this sets the form mode to view. And similarly in the close, I'll just copy this update content so we can just use reference it wherever required. So in this close button, we just need to reset the form, reset form of main form. And again, once the main form is resetted, we need to define what level of view that we are going to give. Let's consider while we are resetting it, we will give a new form. So let's say it's true. I'm just setting the new form value to true and just making other two options as false. And we have an edit. So whenever someone clicks this edit, only thing is that we just need to have this edit form enabled. So we will say true here in the edit form, and we will change the other two context variables as false. So in the delete, we are going to use a new function called remove, which will help us to remove the selected item. So remove accepts two parameters. One is the source name, which is a shoe inventory, and the item which we need to remove. So the item which is selected or shown in the form is nothing but what is selected in the gallery. So we'll say view gallery dot selected, and let's close the bracket. One more use case what I'd like to show here is to adjust the visibility property of the icon. So whenever I'm adding a new stock, it is not that I should see the edit and the delete button. So this edit and the delete button should be visible if and only if the form mode is view. So let's click that delete button, go to the visibility property, and here you can see it's obviously true, and I would like to reference the view form context variable what we have created. So whenever this is true, you will be able to see that delete. So similarly, you can click this edit button and have the property set. So I have selected, I'm going to the visibility property and I'm setting it to view form. Whenever the form mode is view, we should not be able to save or we should not be able to reset the form. So I'll go there, I'll go to the visibility property. I'm saying this should be visible whenever the form mode is not view form. So either you can do not view form or you can use an or condition and you can say whether it is in new form or an edit form is set to true. So both logic will give the same results. So let me copy this and go to this button, and I'd like to have the same thing. So go to the visibility property and have it set. And as a final step, we will add these context variable what we have defined in the small icon in the gallery, add a semicolon and just paste the context variable what we have defined earlier. And I'd like to have the view form as set to true and remaining as false. Now let's run the app and see it in action. So since already the form mode is new, let me fill in the information. And I'm calling the product name as shoe123 and the product number as shoe123. And upon clicking the save, this entry, what we have entered here, will be saved to our source as well as the form mode will be converted to view. Let's click on save and see it in action. There you go. And you can see the value what we have entered is updated in the source, and you can even see the edit and delete icon. The reason being the form mode is set to view. So once you click on edit, obviously the selected entry will be edited, and if you click on specific entries, you can obviously change the form mode. So based on the form mode, your icon visibility will be available. Before we wind up the video, I would like to add some benefits of using the variable. We have improved code readability and maintainability. It increased the flexibility of the app, which will allow you dynamically change the values based on your user input. The best example what we can take, what we have seen today, whenever you need to change a header color, you'll just change it in your onStart property, and that gets updated in all of your screens. By this, we come to end of the video. I have given the official Microsoft Learn link of variables in the description of this video. You can go through and post your questions if you have any in the comment section. Thanks for watching. Subscribe our channel, hit the like button and press the bell icon for our new video alerts.